Globespan is a Guyanese dialogue moving towards the realization of one nation in one Guyana. It's a platform that offers an all-inclusive discussion with the pros, the cons, the ones that have taken a side, and the ones that stand in the middle. Globespan believes agreeing and disagreeing are part of the nation building. Globespan believes that every Guyanese voice is part of the nation building. As we span the globe for voices from the diaspora and those living home, we stand on our commitment that we are all Guyanese working towards one nation in one Guyana.
This land is our land now.
As the world turns on its axis, bringing changes, we as Guyanese must adapt to those changes for a better Guyana for all. Globespan stands on its axis with its belief that one nation, one Guyana, one destiny must include voices from all corners of Guyana.
We ain't giving up no river that belong to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain.
Everyone, and welcome to Globespan Television. We are broadcasting live here in New York. And tonight we have one of the most important and interesting persons on our program. That's Mr. Aubrey Norton. He is the leader of the PNCR and presidential candidate for APNU. But before we get to him, I want you all to know that Globespan is being operated by Mr. Noir Singh and by Mr. Devin Bissoon and Ryan Gobin, our two technical directors. We are a fair and balanced network, and we invite members from every political organization, every religious group, every civic organization to come on the show to air their views. Globespan is broadcast. You can hear Globespan on Facebook and on YouTube as well, and other social networks. The views expressed tonight by Mr. Norton are those of his and not those of the staff or management of Globespan Television. And to say that, let me say this to all of you. We span the globe. We believe in that all voices must be heard, and whether there's agreement or disagreement. We believe in one nation, one destiny. So we offer an all-inclusive discussion on the pros and cons of various topics. So once again, all are invited to join us. And we as a group, as a network, we do not bear malices or venture to say anything to someone who else expressing their views. We let the person express their views and we accept what they say. It's up to our listeners and our viewers to make their comments on their views. Having said all of that, tonight I want to welcome the leader of the People's National Congress Party and the presidential candidate for APNU, APNU, Mr. Aubrey Norton. Welcome, sir.
Thanks for having me, Dr. Rose, and a good evening to your listening and viewing audience, wherever they are.
Mr. Norton, my first question to you is this. You have been in the party for almost over 30 years, am I right? What
50.
changes have you seen in the party from the time you joined it to now? Tell our listeners.
Well, in the first thing one should say that when I joined the party in 1972, we were pursuing a socialist path, and it was a totally different ideological position. While there are some elements of that past that will still exist, because the political party was based on service to people, seeking emancipation or liberation from colonialism, among others. But now we're in a different era. We're in an era when the world has changed, and as a political party, we have to adapt. I would say the major change in more recent time is that as leader, we have been refocusing the party on one, integrating young people and mentoring them so that our present list for the elections has a large percentage of young people coming in. We seek to mix that with experience And so it's a good mix. We seek also to increase the non-African Guyanese section of the party. We believe that it is critical. We will continue to work at that. But more importantly, I believe that as a political party, we have analyzed our errors, our mistakes, and we are now prepared to rectify those mistakes and move forward. And that is why we are saying that, look, we are focusing on people-centered development. Our intention is to put people first and ensure that we put money in the pockets of our people, the Guyanese people, improve their quality of life. We believe it is unacceptable for us to be the fastest growing economy in the world, and we have people living on $6 US per day.
Okay, Mr. Norton, you have been the leader of the party for the past 4 years. Am I right to say that?
Go ahead into 4. December this year, it will be
Okay.
4.
What changes have you made that you saw were not working for the party? And going forward, can you outline these changes to let the people know how it benefits the party?
In the first place, when I became leader, a lot of persons were disgruntled. And one of the first things I did was to ensure that in all the regions, all the NDCs, the party leadership go out, meet the people, and begin to outline our philosophy to them. We did that, I think, successfully. You're well aware that a lot of people felt that we did well in the first term, but there were things that people felt that we need to rectify. For instance, some people felt that we weren't staying in touch with our support base. So one of the things I've done is to ensure we stay in touch with our support base and to meet out to other demographics that might not have been supporting us before, but we are encouraging them to support. The next thing that I would say is that we have developed a core of young people who are interested more in serving the people of Guyana. You know, a lot of time in politics, people can come for the office, they can come for money. And I think one of the advantages we have is that a lot of the persons who are coming to us are persons who believe in what we are saying and doing, and therefore they are coming with a commitment rather than just a desire to benefit at the expense of the people of Guyana. So I think we have changed to completely the approach of a large section of the party for them to understand that they are servants of the people and not the other way around.
Very, very good. I have a question that has been lingering on my mind, and let me tell our listeners and our viewers, I already got about 9, 10 messages here, that we cannot put forth all the questions to Mr. Norton because time will not allow us for that. But I'll try to put forth the best ones as possible. Mr. Norton, the PEP and the PNC, they have similarities and they have differences. But one of the differences is this. President Jagdeo is no longer the president. He did not walk away from the party. Robotar did not walk away from the party and gone into oblivion or someplace. But we have seen President Granger gone into oblivion, Robert Corman gone into oblivion. Why is it that they could not have been there encircling the country with you to campaign the way Jagdeo is doing it, the way Robotar is doing it?
Let me start by saying it's unfair to say that about Robert Corbyn. By the time I became leader, Robert was just after COVID. Robert wasn't well, but I can say to you, Robert continues to give advice. I can call him at any time and speak with him. I don't think he ever walked away from the party. I do think that he doesn't have the energy that he had. In Mr. Granger's case, I'm very clear that he didn't walk away from the party, though he considered himself to be retired from politics. But as you would have seen recently, he said he's supportive of the PNC and the APNU. And for me, that is enough. We're not talking about people who are in their 60s. Barry Jack Deo is in his 60s. David Granger was 80 a few weeks ago. So I don't think we can compare the two of them with Barry Jack Deo. They are all senior citizens who would have made their contribution, and they choose to be in retirement and to give advice when asked.
Okay, fair enough. Now, you've been campaigning for the past, what, rigorously for the past 2 or 3 weeks. I must tell you, you made a powerful speech at the launching, and you had a very large crowd. Now, but since that time, I don't know if you had any rallies. I don't know where the members are, but I haven't seen that momentum being carried forth. Why is that?
Well, I don't think you're following what is happening. We had a rally last night at Melanie.
Yeah, I saw that
Richard,
one. Yeah.
that was well attended. I can say to you, our party activists, if you follow us on Facebook, in all the regions they are on the ground. We saw pictures of them in Region 1, Region 2, Region 3, East Bank, East Coast, Georgetown, Region 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I would say that I'm satisfied that our party activists are on the ground. They are recruiting people. They are working. But not every event will be a big event like the launch. But we continue to work. And I can tell you our public meetings have started and we are on the campaign trail.
Okay. Now, I want to bring a point up. I want to get this out very, very fast. You know the diaspora, especially Brooklyn, New York, and Queens. It has several PNC organizations, which is not a bad thing. But the PP has one, Association of Concerned Guyanese. And whenever they have a meeting, they have anything else, people always pack the audience. But with those in Brooklyn and in Queens, if they should have any function, the other groups don't hardly attend because they will say they don't belong to that group and so forth. Why is it that the PNC cannot have just one major organization in New York? Don't talk about that one that, what do you call it? The one based in Atlanta. I can't even remember its name. But that's not a PNC organization. That organization is more dividing the people in New York than anything else.
Well,
NAR.
I don't know what you are referring to. There are many groups in the United States, but they operate under the umbrella of the United States PNCR. NAR has turned itself into, I don't remember, the C-150 or whatever they call it in the United States, but they have transformed themselves into that. The PNCR groups across the United States are functioning. They are contributing in this election. And so there are advantages to having one group. The advantage is that you can dictate and control everything they do. But there are also advantages to having a multiplicity of groups because you have a wider base, you produce more leadership, and you have a more diverse set of views. Of course, you will accept that when there are diverse views, divisions will occur. It is a question of managing those divisions and ensuring that they work in the direction of supporting the PNCR and the APNU in the 2025 elections.
Okay. Now, you have started a campaign, as you said. The PP, as we know it now, is campaigning in non-traditional areas, meaning in PNC stronghold. Are you campaigning the PP strongholds?
We have been, we do not have the resources of the PPP. We have to be strategic, but we have been campaigning in PPP strongholds. We've been in a number of villages, but we believe that first we must consolidate our base, which we're doing. Jagdeo has the means at his disposal to bribe, to do all kinds of things which they do. We have to be very strategic, mobilize and organize our support base and ensure we are focused on winning the elections. And that is what we are doing. We do not see ourselves as a political party that should respond to everything Jagdeo says or does. When you have resources like Jagdeo they have, the tendency is for you to believe you are succeeding when in fact you are not, because people can take the resources you have, and as the local government show in all our strongholds, they voted APNU, and we believe whatever little gains they would have made in New Amsterdam, they really didn't make gains in Linden, and it was marginal in Georgetown. We believe all of that would have been eroded by the arrogance of the PPP government, and many people who had indicated their willingness to support the PPP are now, many of them are back. We didn't make a fanfare about it, but many of them are back and supporting us, and we're just doing the work and moving forward. We do not believe that we have to advertise if somebody is supporting us and use it to suggest that the PPP is dead. We have been around long enough to know, just like the PNC, the PPP is an institution, and one or two people jumping from here to there wouldn't change the strength of the PPP nor the APNU.
Okay. Now, as you know, Mr. Mohammed came on the scene with his Win Party. And when you look at his crowd, the vast majority are Blacks. If you have noticed that, what that tells you?
It doesn't tell me anything that other than he has the resources to pay people to attend. Many of the persons I engaged, like I told you, I spent all day in Albaistown, and we had good exchanges with them. We think our supporters are sensible. They know to take the money if it is being offered, but they know to vote where they are supposed to vote. We are dealing with people who are conscious. I object to Jagdeo describing them as scrapes. You make them unfortunate, you make them destitute in some regard, and then you turn around to bribe them and describing them as scrapes. For me, they are not scrapes. They are human resource to be developed. And we believe in government, we will ensure we organize them in a way that they can develop, because we know they have potential, but you live in an economy in which more than 50%, according to the IDB last set of information, more than 50% of the people live in poverty and live under $6 a day. And that says that what in fact has happened is that you impoverish them, and then you turn around and believe you can buy them out. They will not be bought out. They will take your money and they will do the right thing come September 1st.
Let me ask you this question from one of our listeners. And she is saying that cost of living is very, very high. Corruption is widespread. This is what she has said. But you have not gone hard enough at the PNC PP with this year. Why?
We did not do, I didn't hear the last part of the question.
She said you have not gone hard at the PP with these two topics.
Well, I don't know why people would say that. We have been dealing with cost of living from the time I became leader. We actually put out pamphlets. People forget that we have had a high cost of living rally, a set of them across the country. We had one at Burnham Court. We had one in Golden Grove. I think we had one in Linden. So to say we didn't go hard on this question of high cost of living, I believe it's an unfair comment. We have been carrying the battle fighting against the high cost of living. We actually made proposals to the government as to how to deal with the cost of living in 2022. We did it in 2023. We did it in 2024. So I would not say that we didn't carry the battle. Outside of Stabrook News, which does this survey regularly, I think we are the next persons in line who continuously kept the question of the high cost of living and poverty on the front burner. At one time, I even got into a slight exchange with Glenn Lal, who was focusing a lot on oil and gas. And I had to say to him that, look, we are a political party. We have to deal with all the issues, and the high cost of living was an issue we had to keep on the front burner. I think I can still pull up handbills that we put out on the high cost of living as we went out in the fields, meet people and talking to them about the high cost of living.
Oh, she sent a follow-up question. I'll ask it to ask you, but you don't have to answer it if you don't want to. She says, my suggestion to you is that the PB got banners all stretched across a lot of areas in the city and other areas too. She says, why don't you put the banners up under the PB banner and mark it big corruption?
Well, we have banners going up. If you pass the Demerara Harbor Bridge now, you'd see that we have banners. We will have more banners going up. I think if you peak too early in an election and you don't have the resources as your opponents is going to come back to counter it. So you have got to, at a strategic time, put up what you need to put up and then move forward. And I believe that when we put up our banners and our flags, the timing will be appropriate and the right time. I do not believe that in a 8 weeks campaign, you run in the first week or two, you put up all that you have, and then coming down to the end of the campaign, you slackening on the last straight. You have to time it and ensure you go straight through and impact as you move along.
Since you became the leader of the party, one positive thing I know have happened. A lot of youths have rejoined the party that had left during the Granger time. Do you have any specific advice to them and any specific program that you will offer them should you win the election?
Well, we have already put out what we will do for the youth. Like we have said before, we see the youth as a human resource to develop, and we will invest heavily in skilling, reskilling, and upskilling young people so that they can get jobs that suit their skills. We have already said that we will have what we call a YES program, the Youth Empowerment Services Program, where we intend to train a lot of young people. We intend to develop the National Youth Fund, which young people will be able to access to get grants and loans to do business. We have already said that we not only will we put them in business, but we will be involved in training them in financial literacy and small business management, because we believe if we give them resources without the requisite training, their probability of success will be low. And so we intend to do that. We have made it very, very clear that in terms of sport, we will sponsor all national athletes. We don't want a situation where national athletes have got to be scrunching around to get money to go overseas. We've already said we will give to national athletes livable income. We want to do the same for sport coaches. We believe that the resources exist and we should put those resources into young people to ensure young people develop. Even as we talk about the University of Ghana, I was speaking to two young people who said to me, oh, they wanted to support the PPP because of free university education. And then I told them that Guyana had free university education. It is the PPP that stopped it in 1994. And so it is not a case where they're introducing free university education. They are returning something that they stopped. And one of them went, check it, and came back and said, yes, we didn't know that. So also we have to educate the young people, because a lot of the young people are not aware of what happened. Today in Albistown, I was talking to the young people about the Phantom Squad, and many of them never even heard the concept of Phantom Squad, because in the troubles of the 2000 to 2004, any one of them that is 21 now wouldn't know anything about that. And so we had to be talking to them about it, telling them who supported it, what it did, etc. And then from that, they got a different perception of what has happened in the society. So political education will be critical for young people, because a lot of young people are not aware of what happened as recent as 2006. So we will have a lot of programs that are aimed. We intend to reintroduce law scholarships for young people. We believe it is an unacceptable situation where if you're the child of the wealthy and you have less ability than the child of the poor, you can become a lawyer or a doctor, and that child cannot become. And so we will return law scholarships to the system so that young people who do not have the resources but wish to become a lawyer can become a lawyer. And in fact, a lot of the persons in the so-called depressed areas need to become lawyers because a lot of the injustices are meted out to them, and they don't have the requisite resources to do it. We help some of them by providing lawyers, but clearly the government is bent on ensuring that there isn't a lot of access to lawyers in poor communities, and we have to rectify that.
Well, folks, you're listening to Globespan Television live here. I have my guest here is Mr. Aubrey Norton, the leader, bona fide leader of the People's National Congress Reform Party, and presidential candidate for APNU, which is a coalition of parties that came together. Mr. Norton, I'll give you the opportunity to explain some of the things that you put out there. You said that civil servants will get 35% increase. Does that include all civil servants, all public servants? When I say public servants, I'm talking about teachers, police, nurses,
Yes, we have
GPL
said
workers, and these people?
we have said that those workers will get 35% increase. Remember, we also said that we will give higher increases to the persons lower down. So anybody working under $200,000 can expect 35% increase.
Under 100,000, you mean? Under 100,000, you mean?
Like at present, if you're working for 200,000, you can get 35%, you will get 35%. We have made it clear that we will give public servants 35%. But we also said that we don't want the rich to continue to get rich and the poor poorer. So let's assume ministers. I don't see us giving ministers of government 35%. I see us returning to the position where they get probably 1%. But the bulk of the workers who need money, they will get 35% so that we can close the gap between rich and poor and improve the lives of the people who are at the lower level of the ladder. I've made it very clear that our strategy is a people-centered development strategy, and its aim is to put people first. We're not saying not only that we will give 35% increase, we want to also ensure there's a return to collective bargaining so that after we would have given that increase, the trade unions can bargain on behalf of the workers. The PPP has emasculated trade unions. When they came to government in 1992, they were functioning trade unions. Between 1992 and 2015, they had destroyed all, including Gau and Nasi, who they were close to. A lot of the leadership in those unions complained bitterly about how the People's Progressive Party treated them. And so we are going to give that wage increase, but we are cognizant of the fact, I don't think any one of the persons who are likely to become ministers in the next APNU government believe that we will give the top end 35% when they get in 1-point-something million now. What we are saying is the lower end, the average public servant who needs it must get 35%. And after that, we can use different scales for those who are working for 500,000 and above, like we did when we were in government the last time.
Okay. Now, pensioners, you'll give all pensioners, increase it from 40, what were they making of 41, 42,000 to $100,000?
41,000 to
They'll get
$100,000.
$100,000.
Yeah.
Would
And
you
not
consider,
only, you see, it's
go
not
ahead.
only, it is not only the state pension. We have a situation where persons' pensions were calculated at the time when they retire. You have people who work for years in this country getting a state pension of $22,000. That is a little over 100 US. What we are saying, yes, the pension you get at 65, we will carry it to 100,000. But there are a lot of retired persons who cannot live on their pension in the Ghana Defense, ex-soldiers, ex-policemen, ex-teachers, ex-nurses. Many of them cannot live on the state pension, or it is not adequate. So we undertook, and we will undertake, to review that, to bring them much closer to living a better life.
Now, you know, the lifespan has improved, has increased in Guyana. One time it was 66 years old, about 20 years ago, 66 years of age. That increased around 1985 to 70, 2002 to 71, 72, and today it's about 77, 76, 77 years for female. And males is about 74 years old. Do you think it should increase the age of retirement from 55 to 62?
Well, we will use a fluid approach. What I've said to my colleagues in the discussions we have had is that we can give people the option of retiring at 55. But they can also have the option of working to 60 or 65 if they so desire. In other words, we will remove the compulsory retirement age and put a more fluid one. There are people who might want to retire at 55. You don't want to deprive them of that. But there are people who believe if they retire at 55 and have to wait until 60 for NIS pension and have to wait until 65 for state pension, what we will do is put in place a fluid system in which there is not a compulsory age at 55. At 55, you have the option of retiring if you want to. But if you want to continue to 60 or to 65, you should be given that option. And that is the approach we will take, because not all and sundry will agree that they want to retire at 60 or at 65. But if you have a fluid mechanism, then who arrives at 55 can then decide if they are retired at 55 or somewhere between 55 and 65. We believe that option should be available to them.
The question there is this, though. Now, you're giving them an option, which is good. But in doing so, if they should go out at 55, what the government has been doing, and I can't recall which government it started with, go back and hire them on contract rather than keeping them there until 62. Would you continue that contract hiring?
Contract has its positive, it has its negative. The problem with contract in the PPP government is that they use it as a weapon against some and in the interests of some. That is what has to be removed. I am not at all sanguine that I will move in the direction of employing them on contract, but I wouldn't close the option.
Okay. Now, because we care grant, right now is $50,000 plus $5,000 for uniform, making a total of $55,000. You said you're going to increase that to $125,000.
120.
120, okay. Tell our listeners why.
Well, when I was moving around the country and engaging people, a number of things emerged that we considered. One, people want whatever transfer they have or they're entitled to be more predictable. The contention is it isn't predictable. An election coming, like the local government election in 2023, and you brought it before the election time. And then this time, you're bringing it at a time, again, with election. People want that lack of predictability to be removed. We're saying, look, we are going to give you $120,000 for the year. We will give you it twice. June, July, when school is out, we have to buy your school supplies, you can do it. And then we'll give the other one at the end of December so that people know when they are going to get it. We believe that 50,000 is inadequate. Now, let us not forget, the PPP, when they budgeted for that particular program, they budgeted one-off. It's only after they lost power, they started saying that they would have had it continuously. There was no provision for it. Now it is continuous, but it is ad hoc. Our thing is to increase it, streamline it, and we intend to complement that with a national schools transportation system. We believe that David Granger's introduction of buses to the school system was a positive that impacted on especially the poor. And so we are very supportive of the idea of bus transportation to take our children to school. We're cognizant of the fact that some of our children live in the riverine areas, and we are prepared to provide boats for them to go to school. And then there are children who might not have the option of boat nor buses, but can have bicycles. So it is not something that you could say across the board, I will put buses. Ghana is a country with a large hinterland, and we have to adapt to the fact that there are rivers. And I think David Granger, as a former head of the military, knew the country, and he knew full well that you couldn't restrict it to coastal transportation. We have said that one of the things we are going to do is to narrow the gap between the hinterland and the coast. And therefore, we want to do it in a way that the facilities that the hinterland need, they will get them. And so our approach is one in which we want to put the child first. I saw Priya Manik Chan making another noise saying that I am making it conditional. Look, we're not giving this cash transfer for people to do the nails and do the hair. We're doing it as an incentive to children having the resources they need to go to school. And that is why I say, and we are unapologetic for it, that we will also look at the attendance of a child in school. We want our children in school. We are aware that if children go to school and they do well, they improve their lives. I am not going to get into this opportunistic approach of Priya Manik Chan, who's saying, oh, you will put condition. Priya, I'm saying to you, yes, we will put the condition because we want the children to benefit. Why would we want to give a mother $120,000 a month to go to a cartel show? That won't achieve the objective. We prefer the money goes directly to what it was intended for, to ensure that the child's school life is comfortable. And that is the approach we will take.
By the way,
but the parents
yeah,
can guarantee they will get it for school supplies, etc.
So you're telling our listeners and telling all Guyanese tonight that you'll be giving them 2 sets of money, $120,000 each, June, July, somewhere there, and then December again?
The other half of it, yes.
So they'll get $240,000.
No, they're getting 120. At present, the government gives, I think, 50. We're saying you get in 60 the first half of the year and 60 to the end of the year, so that you can deal with the child's school supplies, etc.
So you're getting, okay, so 2 tranches of 60, so that's $120,000. Okay, understood.
Yeah.
Understood. Now, let's go to something here. Senior citizens. Some are paying very low water rates and so forth. Do you think it's wise to remove at least electrical bills and water bills from senior citizens? Because there are only about 63,000 senior citizens in the country.
Well, we have said very clear that we will do an electricity subsidy. And any Guyanese who is paying 10,000 or less, since we are subsidizing it by 10,000, they wouldn't pay anything. But every Guyanese who paying 10 and above will have to pay the difference. We have made that very clear. That is in all our documentation. We have said in terms of water supply and water payment, every Guyanese will have 5,000 subsidy. If you use more water than 5,000, you have to pay for it. So I think we have developed a better system to not only help senior. I don't think there is any senior citizen who paying alone, a senior citizen, more than 10,000 in light bill. I don't believe there's any senior citizen who is alone paying more than 5,000 in water bill. So when we say we're giving you 10,000 and 5,000, we are covering all Guyanese, including senior citizens. There are some other things we said about senior citizens. We want to see them live a better life, and we want to see them getting the resources they need. But there are some other things we have to do for senior citizens. Incidentally, I'm a senior citizen. I collect pension. I am still relatively young and healthy, but it irks me when I go to a post office. In fact, I no longer go when they are paying on the day, because what happens? Because these people are eking out a living, they turn up in large numbers on that day, and you put them to sit on some benches. I don't understand why we cannot build at every post office a proper place for senior citizens with comfortable seats. It is one of the first instructions I will give to the post office as a president, that we need to treat our senior citizens properly and invest in proper accommodation for them when they go to collect their money. It sends me crazy to see the treatment of our senior citizens. And when I was in the Berbice River, the complaints were worse. They tell you that the people come from the Ministry of Social Protection, and rather than coming up on land from the boat, like was done under the APNU AFC at the time, these senior citizens are forced to go to the boat, and that puts untold pressure on them. We believe that our senior citizens should be treated properly, and therefore we will ensure the system is one where there is proper accommodation. And in the case of the riverine areas, we have to set up proper places for the people to get the pension, and the people who are carrying the pension should go to the people there rather than having senior citizens come to a boat. So there are a number of things that we have to do for senior citizens. I would like to see an efficient health system that serves senior citizens, not you opening a set of hospital, and when the people go to the hospital, there are no nurses, there are no doctors, and you're scrunting around. I think we need a totally different approach to senior citizens.
Okay. Now, my next question to you is this. Would you lower VAT?
I think, yes, we will. We did it before, and we're likely to do it again. I don't want to give a percentage or so, but once we see the figures, we will possibly lower VAT. But we also believe that there's need for a comprehensive relook at the tax system to ensure we improve it and people benefit more. I know for sure we intend to reduce corporate tax from the discussions I've had with the people who advise me from an economic standpoint.
Now, to clarify what you have just said to all our listeners here tonight, anyone paying $10,000 and more in electrical bill will get a reduction of $10,000, so they'll just pay the difference. In other words, if they're paying $12,000, they'll have to pay only $2,000.
Correct.
And water bill, if they're paying $6,000, they'll only have to pay $1,000.
And if you are below 10 or 5, you don't have to pay any.
You don't have to pay anything.
That is the best way I would put it.
Okay. Now, your vice presidential candidate, well, I don't know if he's a candidate, says that Ganesh Manipal said that if the people should vote for Mohammed, chances are he will rejoin with the PEP, who they claim now is our enemies, and support the PEP. Do you believe that?
Well, Mohammed himself, when he was asked, said he will not join with the APNU or the AFC. When further asked if he will join with the PPP, he says if it is in the interest of the country. What could you conclude from that? That the probability of him going to the PPP, back to the PPP, is high. But when it comes to the opposition, no. So I would say Ganesh was right.
Okay. Now, I ask you a lot of questions. You also said that you will put a threshold at $400,000. So anyone making $400,000 or lower will not pay any taxes.
We have said that we are working towards it. Of course, we engage economists, etc. And I can tell you one economist said to us, he agrees with the plan generally, but he thinks it should be 200,000 because that 200 to and above tend to pay more taxes. But for now, we are saying to the Guyanese people, 400,000 will be the threshold.
And you said house lots should cost no more than what?
Well, I didn't know we gave a figure to house lots. We are going to be taking a number of approaches to housing. One, we're saying that we will do our rent to own. There are a lot of people who don't have a salary to go to a bank and get a mortgage. Those people, we want to help with our rent to own. We will ensure that we build houses and those people will occupy those houses with an agreement. They will pay a rent, and when the rent covers the cost of the house will be transferred to them. That is one approach that we will take. We believe that land for housing shouldn't be as expensive as it is under the PPP. And if you know the price they sold themselves in Prado Villa, you will know that the price can come down. So we're saying that Guyanese will have house lots at an affordable price. We wouldn't burden them because we believe that there is a lot of land in this country. And if we take into consideration climate change and that we need to move to highlands, it is also the opportunity to open new highlands for housing and other business, agricultural, and other activities. So that is another approach we will take. There are already people with existing houses, many who cannot afford to rehabilitate the house. We're saying that we will have a mechanism to ensure that we can help Guyanese to repair the houses and keep the value at a particular level. Let us not forget that if you buy a property or you own a property and it is deteriorating, its value will deteriorate, and your quality of life will be deteriorating. And when we talk about the assistance to do repairs, etc., the aim is to keep the housing stock at a particular level so that the value of the property is maintained, the value of the person's wealth, for the want of a better word, will be maintained, and Guyanese will be in a better position.
Okay. I ask you to elaborate on all the cost measures you put forth there. Now, here's the big question. For public servants, we're looking at 264,000 people. Civil servants, public servants, teachers, police, nurses, you name it. For pensioners, we're looking at about 65,000 persons. And for school children, we're looking at about 250,000 people. Have your accountants, your economists done the math to see how the way this money is going to come from? Because the government indeed makes about $8.5 million an hour. That's US, $1,000 an hour rather. It's 1,000 a million. I think it's million an hour from oil.
You asked me where the money will come from? Look,
No, I'm asking you, did you do the calculation to find out the
yes,
government have the
yes,
resources
we did the
to supply, to
calculation.
support all your programs?
Yes, we did the calculation, and we have concluded that it will not exceed 35% of the 2025 budget. We have also made it very clear that the level of wastage will be reduced. We intend to reduce corruption. Imagine the level of wastage on the gas to energy project. This project, when it was conceptualized under the APNU AFC, it was 800 to 900 million. This government mismanaged it to the point now where it is at 2 billion. What that says is that because of the inefficiencies, the incompetence, and the corruption, we end up paying more. We're saying to you that we will take a different approach. We will take an approach that allows us to do the feasibility, know the cost of the project, know what is required, and ensure we deliver the projects on time. Because when you do not deliver projects on time, the costs will go up. So efficiency is important. Reduction of corruption is important. Competence is important. And we believe if we combine those three, we will have enough resources. I think it is the World Bank that pointed out that we lose $4 on every $10, which is 40% of our capital budget and other budgetary allocations. What that means is once we reduce corruption, increase competency, reduce waste, right away on the present budget, the 2025 budget, we are going to save 40% that can go to other areas in the budget. Let us not forget what a budget does is allocate the resources at its disposal. If there is proper allocation and then there is proper implementation of projects, then there will be a lot of savings because of the high level of corruption and incompetence in this society. So there's going to be money coming from that. I noticed, I think it is Barry Jack there who was saying that we want to spend out all the oil money. We didn't. But this is the same man who, when we were debating the Natural Resource Fund, proceeded to increase it to take out virtually all the money. At the time, we pointed out to him that what happens if the oil price decline, and he didn't bother. But now that we are talking about giving the people what they deserve, he is now saying we want to spend out the oil money. We are going to change back the law to ensure that the Natural Resource Fund has savings that can be invested for future generations. So we will use money from oil, but it will be done in a proper way with the mechanisms for a proper Natural Resource Fund that allows us to invest in projects while at the same time saving for future generations.
Now, you know, Gaisuku, with the new estate that came on stream, requires more subsidy. It used to be between $8 to $10 billion a year. It is my understanding that will cost about 12 to 14 to $15 billion a year. Should you be elected president, will you continue to subsidize Gaisuku and maintain the workforce?
We have said very early, and I did a press conference specifically on this, that we have to relook Gaisuku, diversify Gaisuku in terms of agriculture, use the lands at Gaisuku to ensure that there is economic activity for people in the society. We have also said that we believe Gaisuku has the skills that we can utilize to even put into house construction. Our aim is to make Gaisuku a viable institution. It will still do some sugar, but it has to diversify and work to remove the subsidy. Over a period, there has to be a plan to make Gaisuco economically viable and sustainable, and gradually over the period ensure that it can stand on its own rather than being an institution that is heavily subsidized.
How do we do that when the production of sugar keeps going up and the world price keeps coming down?
Because I'm saying to you, look, when the EU gave Jack Deere money in the early part of 2000, the money was given to them with the intention that they will diversify Gaisuku and put sugar workers in other areas to work. Some of them could have even been put into business so that by now you would have had the industry at the right size producing sugar that is needed in some areas, but it would have been diversifying and ensuring that it does not constitute a burden on the economy. And we're saying to you, there are many areas of operation that we can diversify Gaisuco into and ensure that workers benefit, get an improved quality of life, and gradually stop Gaisuco from becoming a drain on the economy, while at the same time protecting and promoting the development of the workers who are former sugar workers.
Rice is also a problem. Now the workers are being paid $5,000 a bag for paddy, and that's still not enough. How would you solve that problem?
Well, we have said from the inception, rice has to be solved at the problems of rice have got to be solved at a number of levels. It has to be solved at the production level. It has to be solved at the storage level, and then at the distribution level. I see Irfan is following some of what I said in the Essequibo. Look, we have rice fields that were going for years. They have obviously losing their nutritional value. Therefore, you have to put the rice industry on a path where the fertilizer, etc., for the lands are utilized, they are relevant, and can contribute to higher yields from rice. You also have got to ensure that the variety of rice you bring in is appropriate to the Ghana conditions. When I was in the Essequibo, the farmers were complaining that the rice that they brought from Brazil, I think it was, if you don't cut it right away, you are in deep trouble. And then they had other problems. So you have to deal with the problems of the soil. You have to deal in that context with the nutrition that is needed to boost the soil. And my understanding that there were fertilizers that were coming into the country that was doing that. But for some reason, Gaisuco, the government rather, the Ministry of Agriculture, the Minister of Agriculture decided that they wouldn't utilize that. And so rice is in trouble. So once we solve those production problems, because at present, as I understand it, the European Union isn't buying the rice. This government is paying millers to keep it in silos, to hide this reality until after the elections. So we know when we're taking over silos filled with rice. When we were in Essequibo, rice farmers were showing us where they're burning the bad rice. So we have to solve the production problems. Once we solve the production problem, at the same time, I've said long before Irfan Ali followed me, that we will develop private-public partnership in terms of constructing silos so that the rice could be stored. In that process, we have to improve the quality. Because if it doesn't meet the quality that the European Union wants, it is going to stay on your hands. So we don't want to store bad rice that you have to burn or give the Guyanese people. I think if Guyanese have an idea as to what is happening with rice, they might not want to eat rice anymore, but many can't afford it. So we have to solve the storage problem. And then once you improve the quality, etc., you can deal with the market, find markets for the rice. Then there is also the opportunity to use rice in other products. There was a lot of noise about rice flour in Guyana, but now if you go in the world, you're seeing composite flour, some rice, some wheat, some sweet potato, some wheat. And so the rice industry has to be placed on a footing where it can utilize rice outside of just exporting it to foreign markets. And I think once we do that, we will be in a better place with rice. And I know that there are professionals in the rice industry. If they were allowed to do their work, rice would not be in the trouble it is in today.
I want to tell all our listeners that while I recognized you and we really and truly love you for tuning in to us, please do not send me questions with vulgar language inside. If you can write proper language, a sentence properly without any vulgarity, don't do it. And don't send me personal questions. This is not personal, nothing personal. We should all be professional and rise to the occasion. You can belong to any party. Mr. Norton has the right to lead a party of his choice, but don't send me anything that is personal, or else you'll not be allowed to send me anything at all if you continue. So I hope you're hearing me loud and clear. Mr. Norton, you could very well be the next president of this country. So I'll have to ask you a question in the border dispute. How would you deal with Maduro trying to take Essequibo? Would you align with the United States the same way as the PPP has done?
Now, let me say this to you. The Guyana-Venezuela territorial controversy is one that is before the International Court of Justice. One of the first things we need to do is to improve our diplomatic service. If you have a proper functioning diplomatic service, then you will be in a position to put to the international world your position. I have made a number of proposals to President Ali, which he paid no attention to, I think to his own detriment. For instance, we said, in Latin America, a lot of persons are hearing the views of Venezuela. So I recommended to him, both in private and in public, that we should put advertisements in Latin American newspapers across South America, educating Latin America on the strength of our case against Venezuela. First thing I said. The second thing I said, that we now have oil resources. We should use those oil resources as a diplomatic tool in the Caribbean to ensure that we consistently mobilize the support of the Caribbean and Latin America behind us. I went to Nigeria and I met the vice president of Nigeria, and he wasn't aware of the Guyana-Venezuela territorial controversy. I said in my presentation in the parliament, you have 55 African countries that you could mobilize in solidarity with Guyana's position. So the first point I want to make here is that we need a proper diplomatic strategy and plan to deal with Maduro. We come now to the next thing. Even if you rely on the United States of America and you do not develop your capacity to protect your country until help comes, you're in deep trouble. And so I said to the president, we need to return proper jungle warfare training and to improve the quality of training that our soldiers get, so that we use the advantage we have of being better in the jungle than Venezuela. Because as I understand it, if they're coming, the area that they have to come over is dense jungle. The other side, Brazil will stop them generally. Now, having said that, I believe we have Exxon in our waters. It's an American interest, and America will protect its interests. But it is also an obligation of Guyana to mobilize other countries in support of our territorial integrity. And so while I have no objection to the US playing a significant role, I do not believe it should be left to the United States alone. Foreign policy is a dynamic, fluid thing. Today, our interests might coincide with the United States. Tomorrow, you don't know it's what. You cannot plan your foreign policy based on today alone. You have to have a structured approach that allows you options when a particular option is closed. Let us face reality. Venezuela has more oil resources than us, by far. And if there is a government that is favorable to the United States, you could have the shift in the US position. We therefore have got to look to the long term and plan in a way that deals with all the reality that confronts us. We have to work to ensure that there's confluence of interests, but we also have to work to recognize that there are times when there are going to be conflict of interest and you're going to need options outside of one or two countries. That would be my approach to the Guyana-Venezuela territorial controversy. Also, one has to look at the dynamics of Venezuela because, you know, once Maduro is under threat at home politically, the beaten horse is Guyana. And Venezuela is not going to remove that option. And therefore, we have got to be very skillful and strategic.
You mentioned in your speech at your kickoff rally that you didn't go to some university on the West Coast. Who are you referring to?
Every child knows that Irfan Ali claimed to have gone to some university at IFLAT, when in the history of Ghana, there has been none.
Okay. Okay, now let's go back to international issues here. And you were teaching international relations at UT. Africa has 54 countries. I think it's 54. You said 55, but it's 54.
All right, I won't roll over the one.
Okay. Now, Africa has 1.1 billion people. And there's only one embassy in Africa, in South Africa. Would you establish more embassies in Africa?
Yes, I will. I believe that the Caribbean-Africa relationship should strengthen. Not only does Africa have 1.3 billion people, it also has at its disposal technology. Sometimes people underplay the technological capabilities of countries in Africa. And so I think we need diversified relationship. And I surely believe that we should have diplomatic relations with at least 3 African countries that will redound to the benefit of Guyana.
Okay. That said, CARICOM, as you know, has been established in 1973. The forerunner for CARIFESTA, which was done since 1962 or 63 by Bornham.
72. CARIFESTA was 72.
CARIFESA came into being in 72?
Yes. CARICOM emerged in 73.
When CARICOM came into being?
The Treaty of Chaguaramas was signed in 1973. But you had CARIFTA. You had CARIFTA before.
I'm saying CARIFTA started in the 60s.
Yes.
Okay.
In the 60s.
Okay.
The Dickerson Bay Agreement. The Dickerson Bay Agreement established CARIFTA.
CARIFTA was established long before the European Union, as a matter of fact, and the Organization of African States long before the European Union. Anyway, the Caribbean, when it comes to a regional organization with CARICOM, I have looked at it and I've written about it too. It is not working as though it's supposed to be. There are actually no free movement of people. And that is in the charter from day one. Free trade, every Caribbean country trades more with the United States than they trade with each other. I guess that's for the currency. And I can go on and on. What would you do as president to lead the CARICOM to understand that, look, charity begins at home. We have to do what is right for CARICOM before we venture outside of the region.
Okay, I am not so sure what you mean by we have to do what is right at home.
We are trading more with outside countries than within our CARICOM neighbors.
That is a function of historical relationships. Look, let us face it. Let us face it. You don't have 20 million people in the English-speaking Caribbean. So when it comes to a market, it really doesn't constitute a market. I agree that there should be trade within Caribbean countries. But I also believe that there are other areas of cooperation that CARICOM can develop that will help us. Let me give you an example. Why until now aren't there Caribbean multinational corporations in construction that can not only operate in the Caribbean, but vie for jobs outside of the Caribbean? You have the skills at your disposal. You can raise the capital. You see, I think we take only the state approach to CARICOM, failing to recognize that CARICOM is also powerful at the socio-cultural level. The Caribbean music industry, if properly coordinated and resourced, can impact not only on the Caribbean, but on the wider world. Now, one of the problems CARICOM has always faced, or the Caribbean, is when a country advances, it sees the other countries as a burden. We saw it when Jamaica was up and going. We saw it when Trinidad was up and going. I don't believe Guyana should make that mistake. I believe Guyana should utilize its resources to help the Caribbean, in return, of course, for support for the Guyana-Venezuela territorial controversy, among other things. And then I believe that there are many plans in CARICOM. If we find ways and means of implementing them, CARICOM can be useful. But if CARICOM continues on the present trajectory, it will make itself irrelevant. The real task is to make CARICOM relevant to the Caribbean and the wider world in the present situation. And that is what I will focus on rather than trade as the first step. There will be a place for trade, but I do not believe that the extant reality allows us to make trade the first and foremost thing in Caribbean integration. May I also point out to you, integration is not a process that goes straight, or else Britain would not have been out of the European Union. One of the points I always taught my students at university, that in integration, there is a disintegration dynamic. That as you integrate, it produces new problems that can lead to disintegration. And one of the mistakes I think CARICOM makes is that it doesn't focus on the ones that can cause disintegration. And so you end up focusing on only those you think will integrate and missing the fact that some of the things that can integrate also produces disintegration. And one has to take a holistic approach to it. When, for instance, Ghana gets oil and it's making money, there are two ways that can go. That can be seen as a basis to help the Caribbean, or it can be seen as to carry them with me as a burden. And so until we move away from the state-centric approach and begin to see a wider Caribbean region, I always supported the widening of the Caribbean region while maintaining CARICOM. And so, in my opinion, you have to analyze CARICOM properly and then put in place measures or ideas that will allow the process of regional integration to progress.
Okay, thanks. Now, folks, you're listening to Globespan Television. I'll get to commercial in a few minutes. Just bear with me. Let me ask Mr. Norton this question before we move on to commercial. Let me turn back to regional politics and then come back to local politics here. When I speak of trade, I'm saying we should be selling first and foremost to the Caribbean, and in excess we sell to other countries. But it seems that that's not your stance, and that's okay. Now,
No. You miss what I'm saying. I'm not saying that is not my stand. I'm saying even if we sell to the Caribbean market isn't large enough. And if we have limited resources and we are not producing enough that we can serve the Caribbean and the wider region, then we're in trouble. Put differently, in every country in the Caribbean, we will have to widen the economic base, improve the level of production, both in quantity and quality, before we start to talk about first trading amongst ourselves and trading extra-regionally. That's the point I was making. I'm not ruling out intra-Caribbean trade. I'm saying the basis for it is weak. It has to be strengthened. It has to be widened. Increase your productive capacity so that you serve the Caribbean and then you go to the wider look. There's a Caribbean market for pine. And if we don't produce enough pine at the quality for the Caribbean market, then you wouldn't be able to satisfy the market. And when you're producing enough for the market, the price here goes up. So in terms of the pineapple industry, we have to ensure we're producing more. We have to ensure that we're producing at a higher quality. And we have to ensure we train people to ensure that it can be packaged at the right time, maintained, so that by the time it arrives at the final market, it is in good condition. And there are a lot of things that we need to do and do properly that we are not doing at this trade that will hamper intra-regional trade as well as extra-regional trade.
Okay, one last question in the region, folks. Just bear with me because Mr. Norton could become president tomorrow, and we should know where we stand on all these issues. Haiti is in chaotic situation right now. Haiti is a member of CARICOM. It's in our backyard, or you can call it our front yard. But a country way down in Africa, I think is Ghana, got to send troops to Haiti. What that reflect on us as a state in the Caribbean?
I don't think it reflects anything. Look, if we do the analysis of Haiti, you will have to go beyond the people you see involved in gang wars. These gang wars, if you do a study of Haiti, they have controllers. There are people who control Haiti that aren't Haitians, and some are Haitians but are not Black. And so to just see the violence in Haiti without understanding the undercurrent will allow us to misanalyze Haiti. I do not believe that troops are the solution to Haiti. Haiti has a history that the developed world never liked. They were the first country to challenge the French. They became independent in 1804, and ever since then, everything was done to asphyxiate them, to strangle them. The society itself is a classist society, and the ruling class are the persons behind the violence. What you see when you see Africans running down the road and attacking each other is a manifestation of those who control Haiti utilizing the poor to achieve their objective. So one of the first things you will have to do if you're going to deal with Haiti is to deal with poverty. Haiti, in my opinion, if you see Haitians outside of Haiti, they are some of the most industrious people. But are they allowed the opportunity to do that in their own society? Poverty doesn't permit it unless there is a comprehensive program to deal with poverty, ensure that the society develop genuine domestic entrepreneurs and not be controlled by those who do not have the interests of Haiti at heart and wants Haiti in that position so it can be exploited. That is the reality of Haiti. And it's one of the reasons I don't get involved too much in the discussion, because I want to go up way beyond people talking about gang violence in Haiti, etc. It's a manifestation of a deeper problem that has to be solved. And I wouldn't, and I'm being frank, I think we should be in solidarity with Haiti. I think Haiti is one of the countries that we should work towards changing the situation. But I don't know, take in soldiers who don't understand the dynamics, putting them in that kind of situation. We have helped Haiti before with hurricane and other things. But I would be skeptical of knowing that there is an underbelly and you send in troops as if they can restore law and order without understanding what is happening at the bottom of the problems in Haiti.
Just for our listeners to know, Haiti has been one of the first countries in the world, Black countries, that became independent in 1804 when it seized independence from France. Okay, let me go to commercial and then we'll get right back, Ms. Norton, to local issues that you all are dying to hear. Allfromonesupplier.com is a place where you can get a store, you can get all your West Indian foods, meat, fish, roti, curry, etc., etc. And you can get it delivered to your home. Plus, you can shop there there's a restaurant, you can buy your stuff and everything else. You can use your EBT, your debit, or your credit cards. Located in Liberty Avenue 10809 Liberty in Richmond Hill. Number is 718-551-3292. 718-551-3292. All from one supplier. You can get all your West Indian dishes from there. And make no mistake, they will solve your problems, eating problems. Globespan will solve all your traveling problems. They've been in business for over 31 years. Very experienced, and they will address all your travel needs. You can call Globespan for its upcoming tours to Dubai, in India, South Africa, Norway, and other parts of Europe. Located on Liberty Avenue 10809, also in Richmond Hill. And the number to call is 718-845-0437. They have offices in Georgetown, 227-1701. Rosalton, 337-4287. And in Shaguna, in Trinidad, and Tobago, 665-3383. And in Val Park, also in Trinidad and Tobago, 645-1604. So call Globespan to end all your traveling needs. Thank you for listening. Now, Mr. Norton, let's come to the home front now. Cost of living is high. Would you tell our listeners that if elected to the presidency, within your first 100 days in office, you'll give them a grant? And if so, of how much?
Well, I don't know the solution to the cost of living is a grant. The cost of living issue is deeper, and it has to do with your production levels. I'm dealing here with the local products. One of the problems I think the government doesn't want to handle is the fact that most of our agricultural produce, they come from regions 2, 3, parts of 4, 5, and 6. 1, 7, 8, and 10 are importers of agricultural produce. The first thing I will do is to ensure all regions become involved in agriculture, because all of them have lands. And even outside of lands, in this world of modern technology, aquaponics, etc., you can have agriculture in every region. And if you make every region sustainable from an agricultural standpoint, what that means is that there will be more agricultural produce in the society, and that will contribute to the lowering of the cost of living. The government should have been aware that with the coming of Exxon, there will be increased pressure on the agricultural sector for agricultural products, and should have expanded agriculture into every region to ensure that the agricultural produce that are needed are there. The government has failed to do that, and so the price has gone up. The government is also linked to the smuggling of chicken and eggs. I've said that more before. Rather than when this government came to power in 1992, and even after, we were producing the chicken we need. But it is now in the interest of some of the actors to allow chicken to be smuggled over the border from Brazil. What that does is put a pressure on the local chicken producers who are running into problems, and the shortages are emerging, and so the price keeps going up. If we invest and ensure all regions have proper farms that are producing the chicken and the eggs they need, the pressure will reduce and the price will come down. I believe agriculture is critical to bringing down the prices, because the high prices exist on other things that are imported. But what affects the average man is the basic things that are produced here: bora, balanje, okro, you name them. So agriculture is needed. We also have got to recognize that once we start to produce like that, we have to become involved in agro-processing. We have to develop storage facility to be able to store agricultural produce and to be able to transform them into value-added products. And that, for me, is the place at which you will begin to tackle the high cost of living in the agricultural sector.
I want to say this, though, to our listeners, that if you go to the La Penitence Market, Starbrook Market, Border Market, Kitty Market, Monrepo Market, New Amsterdam, Port Moran, Skeldon, all the markets, I have seen a surplus of fruits and vegetables in this country. Bananas are there rotting, yet the price is high. I just don't understand that. People,
Well,
just today I went to border market. Nothing is being sold. I stood around there for about half hour watching carefully to see how many water vendors going to be selling it. Nothing. And yet the prices are high. So something is not working out right mathematically,
yes, I
economically.
agree. I agree with you.
Something.
Look, if you have a situation in which there are these produce, the cost is high. You expect farmers to bring down the cost to just suit the average customer. A lot of times farmers will tell you it is better for them to maintain their price and suffer the loss. And it's not really a loss. You get the point I'm making to you?
I'm listening to you.
The other point I want to make, while that is happening, if you go to say Mahdia, the cost is much higher than Georgetown. And that has to do with transportation costs, etc. But you imagine if you develop farms in Mahdia, what will happen? And mind you, I said agro-processing, because a lot of what is wasted can be canned, processed for the market. There was a time when we put pineapple in a can. So it should not be wasted. We should be developing an agro processing approach that allows us to process those things and ensure that we can store them properly, export, among other things. So to me, it's a comprehensive approach that is needed rather than what is happening at present.
Okay. Now, Mr. Norton, now becomes the hard questions. Your party have been negotiating with the AFC for months to form a coalition. The public has heard all sorts of rumors that the leader of the AFC wants the presidency and you refuse to give to him. The leader of the AFC wants 65 seats in parliament, the PNC has 35. And all sorts of rumors have been flying left, right, and center concerning that. The negotiations failed because the two parties did not come together to form a coalition. Can you tell our listeners what were the main stumbling blocks that led to the failures?
Look, all I would say to you, this thing is passé. I prefer to look forward. The reality is there is no coalition with the AFC. However, I don't think we are enemies, and therefore there is hope for the future. But I don't want to go back rehashing why it failed or if I think it failed. The reality is that the APNU is running by itself, the AFC is running by itself, and we have to live with that reality.
Okay. Another question to you is this. A number of persons have left the PNC, and some have left the ASA and came over to the PNC as well. And some of them were high-ranking members. Just, I think, was yesterday, the MP for Linden, Jermaine Figueroa, he endorsed President Ali and was with the PEP and joined the PEP actually. I don't know if he joined the party, but he endorsed President Ali and likely will support the PEP. Amanza Walter Desir did the same thing.
No, she didn't.
Chandan did the same thing.
No, you should correct Amanza Walton. She did not go to any other political party. She formed her own party.
Pardon me?
She did not go to any other political party.
I know.
She formed her own party.
Right. The former General Secretary, Ms. Williams, she went over to WIN. Why? What's the reason for all of that?
Well, I don't know. You'll have to ask them. What I can tell you is that we have had some spectacular candidates. Dexter Todd. We've had joining us Paul Williams. There's a young man named Eden Corbin. There's a young man named Rivaldo Birbal. There are a number of people that would have joined us. Don Cush, a lawyer, would have joined us. At this stage, I do not believe those who would have left would have impacted the APNU in any way. If you look at the turnout at our rallies, if you look at the enthusiasm that is in our strongholds, you will recognize that we are moving forward. We have new competent candidates, and our focus will be on moving forward and winning these elections. As for Jermaine Figuera, you live in a world in which two oil blocks can make you do anything. Sorry, two gold claims rather, not oil.
So you think they leaving the party has not impacted the party at all?
Well, I wouldn't say at all. To say, I don't know that it impacted in any way, but what I can say, it has no significant impact. The party is strong moving forward. It has some experienced people, and it has a core of young people that can carry this party forward.
Did these members told you before they were leaving that they were leaving? Were
They
you
didn't
aware
have
of their departure?
They didn't have to tell you. All of the actions were indicative of it a while now.
And you did not try to persuade them to stay?
Some we spoke with, but you know, it's dependent on why you want to leave. Some people had court cases over their head. Don't forget, James Bond is before the courts. He needs protection. And I could run the list.
Okay. You've got a new prime minister, Miss
Jaretta Finance.
Jaretta Finance. She's from Bartico. And she seemed to be a very vibrant candidate, a very good speaker as well. But she was with the AFC. So did you co-opt her?
Well, I don't know about co-opt. This is what I will say to you. We had a very good relationship with the AFC. We were working with the AFC. Jaretta Finance was operating in Parliament and doing what she had to do. There were some people who in the AFC who were pro-coalition and wanted to see a coalition. And I believe they acted in what they perceived to be the best interest to have a coalition. One of the things I did not do is to make a lot of noise and describe anything as a defection. I didn't see Jaretta Finance, Kiram Sarup, Sherrod Duncan coming to the APNU as defection. I see it as persons who have an interest in the coalition and moving forward. And they felt that at this stage, they can work with us to achieve the objective of removing the People's Progressive Party. And so they joined us. We welcomed them. I can say to you, we didn't have to bribe or do anything like that. And I can say this to you. There are many people who you've mentioned that went from the PNC in other directions. We believe it is their right, and we allow them to exercise their right. And similarly, we believe anybody who wanted to come to the APNU had the right to come to the APNU. There is at least one person who I'm aware went to the AFC. For me, it's no big deal. We try and put together the best slate that we have. We believe our slate is the best, and we will win the next elections.
I'll come back to that just now. So who will be the leader of the list? You?
I'm already the leader of the list.
Okay. Now, I want to come back to poverty. You said it has risen to 50%. It's actually 52%. But that doesn't matter at this stage. And I want to say this to you and to all the parties. I've been listening to them, even though the campaign is early, but I've not heard one thing said about these parties, including yours. That's human development. Now, I want to tell you this.
You weren't
Saudi
listening.
Arabia began pumping oil in 1939. This is just for our listeners to know. And they established a sovereign fund in 1971, which is almost 30 years plus years after. Dubai and Kuwait start pumping oil in 1967, 1968 respectively. And they established a sovereign fund in 2006, which is also 30 years after. We started pumping oil 5 years ago and we had already established a sovereign fund. Those countries work on their people, develop their people. You go to Saudi Arabia, most of the people there are wealthy. Go to Dubai, go to Kuwait, the same thing. As a matter of fact, Dubai, I've been to, has about 3.5 to 4 million people, and almost half the population are from the Philippines, from Bangladesh, from Pakistan, because they come to work for the rich Dubais. My question to you is this. They spend the money on developing their people. So even though the governments are corrupt, the people will not look at the government because they're wealthy themselves. Do you intend to continue the sovereign fund and leave our people struggling? Because, Mr. Norton, let's face reality. I'm in this country. When I drive down Regent Street at night, Church Street, Water Street, I've seen so many people on the pavement, even in Albistown where you came from. Why is this?
It has nothing to do with the sovereign wealth fund. You see, I think there's where you're making the mistake. I said at the launch that we will focus significantly on human resource development. I made that very, very clear. I said we will train people in universities overseas. We'll improve the University of Guyana. We want an improved online training program with the sole focus of developing the human resource. I do not believe that it is the sovereign wealth fund that caused them not to invest in human resource. It is corruption and incompetence. You can, with this same budget, cut waste, cut corruption, invest in the human resource of this country, still have savings for the natural resource fund, and ensure that people develop. The government's allocation of resources is to concrete, steel, and so a lot of money is spent there and not put into the people of Ghana. We are simply saying, yes, there's need for infrastructure. We're simply saying there's need for schools, etc. But there is need for the development of the human resources. And if we allocate the resources properly, we can do all that we are talking about and still have a natural resource fund that caters for future generation. I do not believe the things are mutually exclusive. If you look at the evolution of the countries you are talking about, you would see they put the resources. But the fact that they didn't have a sovereign wealth fund didn't mean they were squandering the resources. There was corruption. But it didn't follow that they were squandering all of the resources and not focusing on the humans. Our problem here is that we are putting the money in the hands of family, friends, and favorites, and not serving the people of Guyana. And that is why the PPP will be thrown out of office.
Well, when I say you invest in human resources, you mentioned education. That is good. The Saudis, the Kuwaitis, they did all of that. Dubais, they did all of that. But they helped the people to establish companies and make them successful and made them wealthy. And that is something that this government is not doing. They're giving out contracts and so forth. But that's not enough. Anyway, that's a separate topic.
The aim of the government, Dr. Rose, the aim of the government is to make a few wealthy, not the country wealthy. That is why we said we will develop a youth fund so young people can access for grants and loans to do business. We have said we want to produce a core of contractors that can do contracts, make money, but give us value for money. And that is why I said before, we will set up a contractor school, train people in both financial literacy and small business management and give them the resources so that they can develop companies, etc., while at the same time giving us the quality of work they want. What this government is doing is giving out some small contracts, knowing a lot of people don't have the capacity to do it. And then those people are in turn forced to go to the same family, friends, and favorites to use their equipment, and then most of the money goes back to the family, friends, and favorite. So the aim is to keep people in poverty. The aim is to, at this election time, say we give contracts to browbeat people. They went in Buxton and they said they gave a number of contracts. And when you talk to everyone, no one of them made more than 300,000 in the 3 months running the contract. That means it's 100,000 per month. They're worse than some workers. The approach is wrong. The Constitution says 25% should go to small business. We should ensure we do that, but we should put the mechanism in place to help small businesses to develop, consolidate, and go on their own. And that is the approach we will take.
Okay, let me go to some statistics for you. In 2020, APNU had 217,000 votes. 217, I think 920 or somewhere there. And that gives them 47.6% of the population. The PP had 230,000 votes, getting 50.6% of the population. 50.6% of the votes cast. So the PP had a majority government of 1 seat. At that time, 465,000 people cast their votes in 2020. The projected number of people who cast the votes this year will be like 485 to 490,000. Even though the list is showing that there are 796,000 people in this country and about 670,000 are eligible to vote. That is totally beyond being ridiculous, because you got 250,000 people who are students, are kids. So coming back to that, how do you intend to increase your votes to get at least, if it's 490 votes, to get at least 245,000 votes to get 50% of the population?
I am prepared to discuss.
270 to 250.
I am prepared to discuss that with you privately, but not do it in the public domain, because the PPP will seek to counter whatever we say we will do. I do respect your audience. I do respect you. But for me to go and say, this is how we will get the votes, it's like telling them, look, come lash me in the head. We can push we head up out of this hole.
You just said that you will defeat the PEP. Will you tell our listeners how?
If I what?
You will defeat the PEP in this election.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Would you tell our listeners how you'll do that?
How we can do that? You're asking me the same question differently. And like I said, I'm prepared to discuss it with you privately. But I'm not going to go out there saying we're working on this group, that group, the other group. It's what I can say to you is that the dissatisfaction with the PPP in itself is a mobilizer against the PPP. There are some other things that have got to be done that we will do.
Okay. Now, the other question I want to ask you is this. If you should have a minority government, what happens? Who will you collaborate with? The PEP, Mohammed, or whichever other third party has enough seats to give you
what you're doing there is you're assuming who are going to be the front runners. I would leave that for the post-election period. My focus will be on winning, but not at this stage to say who we will coalesce with if it's a minority government. All I would say to you is that we will seek to operate in the best interest of the people of Guyana, and we'll move forward based on that. But I don't want to say I will coalesce with this person, that person. A lot of times we tend to predetermine what will happen. I prefer to see what will happen and then we decide. I've worked out a number of options. But I do believe we will win, and those options might not become necessary.
Okay. If the PEP has a minority government and they ask you to support them, would you?
I wouldn't say, never say never in politics, but it's a far off thing. I do not see, barring the impossible may occur, we coalescing with the PPP. If the Guyanese people fight off the PPP, don't want them, I believe it will be a betrayal if at the end of these elections, the people show a clear rejection of the PPP to go and coalesce with them. And that is as frank as I can be.
One more question before we come to the end of the program. NCN, Chronicle, are being paid by taxpayers' money. When Abdu was in office, Abdu used it only for its own benefit. Now the PP is in office, PP is using it for their own benefit. It's supposed to be shared by all the parties and by everyone in the country, but that has never happened. Should you get elected president, would you sell both networks?
I don't know that I would sell them. What I will do is allow them to be independent.
Allow them to what?
To be independent. They're a state entity. Two things I think we should do. Allow them to be as independent as possible, and they should not be competing with the private sector for advertisement and resources, etc.
You think that will work?
At least we will try it.
Is the police force in Ghana independent?
If the police force?
Yes.
No. The police force has been politicized. There are many people in the police force who don't agree with what is happening, but the leadership of the police force has been politicized, and therefore they can be independent. But we can restore the independence of the police force. I recall that there was a man said he was going to kill Haiti. If that was the PPP, sorry, no, Granger. If that was the PPP, the man would have lost way in jail till whenever the trial. Granger was prepared to let the police do their job and didn't intervene. So we have shown that we have the ability to allow institutions to operate independently and just play the role we are expected to play as government. And I believe that Granger handled those institutions in a proper way, sometimes too liberal.
We have got the Chief Justice and the Chancellor who have not been fully accredited to the position they have been acting. Do you think the laws ought to change, that Parliament should be the body to recommend that these persons be given substantive positions?
I wouldn't say the law needs to change, because shifting it to the Parliament is like giving it to whoever is the government. Once you have 51% and you're in the Parliament, well, not even 51, 50.6. Give them 33 seats. So it means that if you push it to the Parliament, it's the same as saying it's the government. I believe it should stay as is. There is need for agreement between the leader of the opposition and the president. However, we should look at mechanisms for breaking the deadlock. That is what I think should be done. The president wrote me a letter telling me that the acting chancellor is going on leave and that he wants to promote Wilshire George to act as chancellor. And I think, I don't remember the name. I don't know if it's Singh. I don't remember the name offhand, but he wants to make him the acting Chief Justice. Now, basically what he's seeking to do is to ensure that he controls it and shift away from having to have agreement with the opposition. But the elections are coming. The results will be different. I think this time, I think we'll return to government, and those things we can change.
let me get something clear from you. You said the chancellor going on vacation.
That is what they wrote me and told me.
She'll be
They didn't.
returning to her position, or she going on vacation
Well,
and go on leave?
the letter implies that she's returning to her position, but in the world of practical politics, I don't know if she will, knowing the PPP.
And who's supposed to be replacing her?
The Chief Justice acting will act as Chancellor. And is it Dino?
Okay, okay, I understand. Okay, good. I understand that. Okay. Now, we got just 2 minutes left. How would you rate this government on a scale of 1 to 10? 10 being the highest. In terms of the economy, in terms of development, and so forth.
I wouldn't rate the government like that on a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of oil. I would rate the government in terms of competence on a scale of 1 to 10. I'd probably put them at 2.
Okay.
In terms of managing a fair, transparent, and accountable government, I'd probably put them at 1 or 2. You see, for me, it is not only the sector that matters. It is how you govern the country, the governance of the country. And when we look at the governance, this government has done extremely bad. When you think about poor roads, I've been in Albyston today, and Calinda Street, which was built the other day, is already deteriorating. If you coming down Heroes Highway, you see holes. We've been talking about over the river, Crane to Schoonard. So what you're seeing is a waste of our resources. Corruption is high. What I believe is necessary is for us as a government to pass anti-corruption laws and to improve the efficiency and competency of government so that it can deliver to the people of Guyana. You are in a situation in which this government has not completed one project on time, be it gas to energy, be it the athletics track in Linden and New Amsterdam. Every time you go, they're pushing the bridge. I mean, it's most ridiculous. They say they're opening the bridge by the end of August. What that means is that they will do no stress tests. So they will put Guyanese at risk just because they want to open it for elections. And you might very well have a bridge that isn't properly completed, isn't tested properly, declared open, and then we got another Heroes Highway. But it's a different story when a bridge isn't stress test to confirm that it can take the weight, etc., that is built to take. And that is worrying.
My last question to you. Do you support President Ali's One Guyana initiative?
First of all, he's a thief. One Guyana was a slogan from the PNC in the 2006 election. In fact, in Parliament, we talk about One Guyana. And it was partisan. It is us as a political party saying we campaigning on One Guyana. What President Ali has attempted to do is to replace one people, one nation, one destiny with One Guyana, when he himself is creating two Guyanas, a Guyana that is extremely rich and a Guyana that is poor, a Guyana in which you favor an ethnic group against another ethnic group. That One Guyana, in my opinion, is farcical. What they have done is created a set of two Guyanas and put themselves at the top as emperors and kings.
So what would you do if you elected? You will change that.
Change what?
Is One Guyana, remove his One Guyana.
You don't have to change anything.
It's written all over the place.
Of course, those will come down instantaneously. What should be on those boards is one people, one nation, one destiny. What One Guyana? One Guyana cricket, One Guyana this, One Guyana that. And at the end of the process, 3/4 of Guyana are excluded. They are excluded from the development process in this country.
Mr. Norton, I want to thank you very much for being on our show.
But before you go, when you go down Regent Street where you talk about people sleeping on the pave, you think that's the same Guyana as them in Pradoville? It's 2 Guyanas.
Okay.
All right.
Well, thank you very much for being on the show, and I'm
Thanks
happy
for
that
having
you came.
me.
And I hope you success in your party. As you said, you'll form the next government, and I can't wait for the for September 4th. September. I said we should get the results by September 3rd, the latest. Hopefully, I didn't even ask you about GCOM because time didn't allow us to go there. So I will ask you to give a closing
I'm
remark.
always disposed once there's the time to come. I've never run away from these programs.
Okay, that's true.
Yeah.
I want to give you time for you to make a closing remark.
All I would say to the Guyanese people is that your children's future is what matters. The resources that this country has should be meeting the people of Guyana, and they aren't. And we're saying to you, as a political party, we will put you, the people of Guyana, first. And we will ensure that resources from oil and gas go into your pockets, fuel development, and ensure we give you the quality of life you need with a livable income and much more benefits to be had so that your life can improve and you live a quality life in a safe and secured Guyana.
Thank you, Mr. Norton, and thanks to all our sponsors and all our listeners of Globespan Television. Also, thanks to Noir Singh for making this program available, Devin Bissoon, Ryan Gobin, our 2 technical directors. And once again, I will ask all our listeners, please be cordial when anyone comes on this show. You don't have to be from the same party. You don't have to be from the same ethnic background or anything of the sort. Do not send me letters with vulgar language inside. Do not send me nothing that is personal questions. I will not even bother hear them. So thank you again, Mr. Norton, and to all our sponsors and to all our listeners, a special thanks to all of you. And I want to say one thing. This election here, I'm asking all of you to go out and vote because it's your rights at stake. If you don't vote, you can't say anything is wrong with the government. So please go out there and cast your ballot. Whichever party is your choice. You want to vote for Mr. Norton, go and vote for him. You want to vote for President Ali, you want to vote for Mohammed, you want to vote for Miss Desir, you want to vote for Mr. Nigel Hughes. Whatever party you choose, just go and exercise your democratic right to vote so that we can have a result that reflects the image and the likeness of the people and all Guyanese together. So that's all I would have to say. And there's something, but I will not say it tonight because I don't want to disrupt the peaceful process I'm in. So once again, Mr. Norton, thank you very much. And best of luck in this campaign. I'm looking forward to see you more on the campaign trail. As you said, you get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and by 6 o'clock, you're out there doing whatever you're supposed to be doing. So you have long days ahead for the next 6 weeks. Good luck, my friend.